in trouble.
I mean, this is a very interesting contrast because Phat Ultimate, we see them as this very cerebral team that likes to play around objectives and stuff. Hanoi Fu Lewis, they're the kings of YOLO, king of
Yeah.
war, king of YOLO, SOFM. He's back.
He's back. He is.
SOFM, the legend himself, and he hasn't really had the most impressive performances in the first week of his return. Some people say, well, he was in the exile hiatus, or he was waiting till 17. He went to Korea, played Challenger, and rumors has it that he reached top 40 Challenger in Korea itself.
Very
that
impressive.
just shows his solo queue prowess. But here's the irony. Our criticism of him in the first week of play was that his jungling playstyle was far too solo queue. He would have an excellent early game, but when it comes to the mid and later stages of the game, he kind of falls flat on his face. He feels disjunct from the rest of his team, engages too riskily, goes with these coin flips in which the opponents are always there to respond to. And here we see Phat Ultimate Rek'Sai first pick on the side of Hanoi Fu Lewis, Corki, as well as Maokai for them.
Yeah, the Phat Ultimate team has really loved to pick the Rek'Sai. You can see, some of the champions right now being featured. Maokai being one of the most picked, most banned, Rek'Sai's on there as well. In the ban list, of course, LeBlanc is on there for this game. And the win rate, I think, definitely Hecarim stands out from those champions. Like, Hecarim, where did he come out from? Definitely Hecarim climbing the ladders. Just as I say that, maybe we might see Ness take that for himself. Phat Ultimate had quite a few, or not quite a few. They had one commanding game so far with that Hecarim. And as many teams in the GPL are starting to catch on to it, I would rightfully think that Phat Ultimate likewise want to be as proficient with that champion as possible.
I mean, I think Phat Ultimate, they'll set themselves up for success over here. They have Rek'Sai, Hecarim, these two champions. If they go for Sivir or Lulu subsequently, it will complement the team composition really well, especially considering the SOFM. They might just be baiting him onto the Z over here because that's one of his favorite champions when he plays the mid lane role. And if it locks that in, they're going to have the Janna, they're going to have the Lulu, and it's going to be really difficult for HFL to make anything happen with the Z. But it looks like they might be going for Cassiopeia instead. Once again, SOFM, star of the Vietnam region, star of the Hanoi Fu Lewis team. There's going to be all this focus onto him, and let's see what champion he will be going for. Now that he's playing the mid lane, I'm not surprised if he goes for the Pantheon and sorts back up into the jungle position once again. Between SOFM, Starfall as well as King of War, all of these three players can rapidly swap between their roles.
Yeah, and talking about names, on the side of Phat Ultimate as well, we do see that Imba Mibio.
I do believe that it's actually Lucifer.
It's just a name change.
It's just a name change.
Okay, right. So just pointing out that some of these, you pointed out how in Hanoi Fu Lewis the players can swap around. Wondering whether or not on Phat Ultimate, we didn't receive any word if somebody different was playing. So, alright, most likely will be Lucifer just with a name change. For sanity's sake, we won't be saying his entire name. We'll just refer to him as Imba, as he was probably going for with the name change anyways.
That runs fine with me because Imba better put out an Imba performance considering that he's going up against SOFM. Now this guy, one of the top streamers in Vietnam as well. He's just so famous when he first got banned because he was underage playing in the GPL.
Yeah.
Huge aura out of all of that, and Hanoi Fu Lewis, they cut it really close. They almost were eliminated in phase 1. But they made it through, and now SOFM, he's back.
He's hungry to climb the ladder this time.
And Flavors,
Yeah.
can you smell what SOFM is cooking?
I wonder, if he picks Zed, it's going to be incredibly difficult. Like you said, not just with the Janna, I mean the Lissandra as well. The
There's
amount
no
of
way
things
he's
that will
picking
lock
Zed.
him up, right? Maybe he's like, I'm top 40 Korean challenger, I can pick Heimerdinger and we'll be fine. But now this is interesting. If he does go for the Cassiopeia, of course, that would demand a high level of coordination from both Ness, Tarzan, as well as Imba, who charge into the ranks of the enemy team. We'll have to see. Honestly, Cassiopeia is one of those champions where if she gets going, she can really take over, say, even the mid game. But come that late game point, it's really about walking that knife's edge when you engage. Watching where exactly she is. Maybe she can be even a little bit tricky after the front line has engaged. In the back line's chasing to catch up. She flashes ults. We've seen that a few times in the competitive regions around the world. So I like that from SOFM. He's not being too cocky by going for the set, which I think would be just, get crushed against the Unfit Ultimate
No
competition.
way. There's a
But,
Lysandra,
but
there's
this
a Janna.
Cassiopeia as well, right? It's going to demand quite a high skill level of play from him.
I mean, Cassiopeia, the ability of APUs to engage into that, especially with the way they engage with the Frozen Claw from the Lysandra as well as the Hacker, which will be approaching from a flank. SOFM definitely needs to find a prime position to be able to drop the ultimate down, get the petrifying gaze, and lock up multiple members on the side of APU. So I have to feel I like APU's team composition a little bit more. Where I felt that they're a little bit lacking in this, that they could have gone for Lulu or perhaps a Sivir, which would complement the Hacker as well as the Rek'Sai a little bit better. But nonetheless, Rek'Sai, Hacker, the flanking potential from these two champions as well as the global pressure coming in is going to be monstrous.
Very, very true. And I have received official word that the member Imba Mibio is in fact a new player. It is not Lucifer. So quite interesting. Unfit Ultimate, I don't want to read too much into it. You know, I don't want to say they're completely rattled, say from, you know, dropping a few games. It's still only week 3, guys. You know, I think there's room for experimentation, even though the parity, as you called it, of the competition has leveled itself up. But maybe, you know, Unfit Ultimate want to try a little bit of a roster swap, trade their mid laner out for somebody new, and we'll see how exactly Imba performs.
I mean, usually when people consult my opinion about Unfit Ultimate, I'm not all that impressed because when we used to scrimmage harder when I was with Team Fat Rabbit,
right,
as the analyst coach, whatever you want to call it, we would have a very mid-centric strategy. We would play Dream in the mid lane and get him very far ahead against whoever they played in the mid lane. So back then, Lucifer would kind of suffer against that. But then now, with the new mid laner, I'm actually kind of wondering that perhaps if we were to scrim them with this current lineup, perhaps the mid laner might be able to hold his ground better, maybe even find some outplays against us. And perhaps this new APU that seems to be performing so well in the GPL Phase 2, being able to take 2 games off SF5 in Phase 1 as well, might be the real deal.
The real deal. We'll have to see whether or not this swap works out for them. After all, Unfit Ultimate, we called them out for a team that works very, very well around objectives. Mid lane, of course, as we saw back to us, mid lane, of course, being the lane which offers access both to the Baron Pit, the other lanes, you know, so-called the objective play. I wonder how exactly that's going to factor into Unfit Ultimate's play then, working with this new mid laner, what kind of chemistry's been established, how clean and crisp the communication has been, especially in team fights as well. I mean, Lysandra, a lot of people say that, oh, you know, she's not a difficult champion to master, but when you're talking about the role and the skill cap and the effect she can have in full 5-on-5 fights, as an entire team, a 5-on-5 squad, you need to make sure that the communication is there. Saying, I'm going to go in here, whether or not I'm going to use my ultimate on this one member or myself, or, you know, double invulnerability play. There's a lot of complexity when Lysandra is put into a 5v5, you know, professional situation.
Definitely as well. Previously, we did see 269 having the mid laner. He tried to go in with the Lysandra, got blown up instantly, just ended up being a free donation.
That's right,
Became
beyond.
off a freebie rather than the frozen tome in the center of the team fight.
Freebie tomb.
Freebie tomb.
Freebie tomb.
300 go, yes, if you have a free 500.
Alright, so SOFM will be feeling rather happy with himself, actually getting 2 poison ticks already, 1 on Imba as well as 1 on Tier. So I mean, Cassiopeia, that's what it's about, getting those passive stacks as quickly as possible to hit all the power spikes that she has. And, well, not going to get that one, but definitely SOFM saying, you know, you're going to have to watch out for me. I know how to land my poison.
So the jungler for Unfit Ultimate will be starting up on the top side of them. Already the Cassiopeia just playing so aggressively, knowing that her range outranges what Imba will be able to offer. 600 on the Frozen Shard, and about 750 at the tip of the Noxious Cloud.
That's right. So for those of you that are wondering how exactly, you know, SFM, you know, climbed the ladder, what exactly is so great about him, look at where he places his poison. Every time Imba comes up for a CS, he knows that the character model is locked in place because of the animation. And that's when he releases his poison. So that's a little tip for any of you that are trying to learn how to harass in your lanes. Every time somebody goes for CS, they do animation lock themselves in place for you to land your skill shots and harass.
Could SOFM be scripting? Yes, it's so many of these skill shots.
Oh no,
over there.
SOFM's gonna get banned again. Oh dear.
That would be really unfortunate. So, I mean, his transition to the mid lane, moved away from the shot calling, where solo queue shot calling can be rather disastrous, but here comes the very classic Full Lewis level 2 gang with the Pantheon on the bottom lane. B1 in a whole bunch of trouble. There we go. Is he gonna get stunned up? Here comes the teleport.
Looks like they're actually going to be able to turn this around with the teleport from Ness. No kind of pursuit coming in though, but very, very interesting in terms of what a costly disengage. I mean, B1, you have to think that if he had just expended his flash, he'd be quite alright getting out of that gank. Maybe his heal as well. But instead they use exhaust, flash, heal, and the teleport. And not a single summoner spell on the side of Hanoi Fulu is burnt. So we'll have to see. I mean, yes, it did take away a lot of Pantheon's jungling time and, you know, messes with his root a little bit. But in terms of summoner spells gained, that's, you know, hashtag super worth.
Definitely, indeed. And in the top lane, we see Maokai taking a huge lead over the Hackroom there. But here is the thing, Tarzan is heading into the bottom lane. Usually we see the response to this is Alpha Ultima's jungler. We just hit straight into the Pulse Spirit Buff, but he's going to be responding for that with a gank off his own. He gets the knockup onto Violet.
Violet must pop his heal, but Tarzan does get pulled back into tower range actually. Those really, really hurt when you're talking only about a level 3 Rek'Sai, but this is something tricky about the way Tarzan plays the Rek'Sai, and overall how Unfought Ultimate works with that Rek'Sai pick. Oh, the slow as well as the poison ticking away onto Imba. But yes, overall this is one of the reasons why Unfought Ultimate prioritizes that Rek'Sai pick, you know, very, very early on in the pick phase. First pick worthy. You know, we've seen them do that multiple times in the group stage number 2 of this GPL Spring Split.
And I have to feel that that teleport early on set Ness really far behind because of the Hackroom. You want to be bullying the lane, but here we see Shin actually being too aggressive in this case. Ness not being able to find all that much mileage on the horse, or rather horsepower.
Yeah, not much horsepower indeed. A great way to put it. 13 to 33 just means he's way, way behind. And we know, we've seen kind of the rise and both the fall of Heckrooms in the competitive scene, which is they really need to get to that Trinity Force, you know, as quickly as possible. They look so weak before that, and it looks like Hanoi Fulu is maybe thinking of capitalizing on this. Pantheon taking up the tower shot with the Aegis of Zonias, but I don't think Aegis of Zionia, not quite sure I got that right, but not quite enough damage, not quite enough survivability, so rather risky honestly on the side of King of War. He's already spent a lot of time ganking bottom lane without any kills to show. Goes top lane, you know, with little effect, honestly, not even being able to, well, there's not really a summoner spell to be burnt, but still, not very effective, not very worth his time. I mean, 42 to 19, sure, the gap grows, but it was already there.
All this focus in the mid lane at the moment. Alpha Ultimate is definitely what he's shutting down at SOFM. In fact, SOFM just one man, picking up so much additional CS over his lane counterpart, 41 to 30 at the moment.
Yeah, it definitely looks like Imba may be a little bit out of his element. At level 5, SOFM actually hits his first little level up in terms of his passive. That's generally a little bit faster than your average Cassiopeia. Again, due to the fact that he's been able to land so many, you know, precise poison ticks in the laning phase. I mean, there's another one that's about to hit. So Imba's definitely not having a good time of it. Getting dropped very, very low, actually. You can see on your screen there, blinking red health bar. And the Ignite pops as well. So SOFM establishing clear lane dominance over the mid lane.
I mean, just look at that. Even before he has completed the tier already, without any items, he's just being so aggressive to get him. All this poison picks up onto his opponents. APU, they call multiple members down onto him. He doesn't even need to pop his flash.
Alright, Starfall has managed to catch onto tier, but doesn't look like any kind of aggression will be coming out. Interesting from B1 right here, going straight for the Brutalizer. Looks like he just wants that burst, especially once that level 6 collateral damage kicks in. Wants to not deal with the rotations of the missiles and bombs that Corki will be able to spit out. It just wants to punch him in the face with the buckshot and then the collateral damage and win from the burst damage. We'll have to see though. We saw, of course, Tier's stats in the infographics before, having a lot of kill participation, so definitely think that B1 and Tier aren't going to be afraid to tangle once they have that level 6 burst on their side.
Oh, here comes Starfall. Does he land the hook? Does Flay come in? Fulu is just playing a little bit frisky over there. King of War around the sidelines as well. And this Rex on the other hand, farming a whole bunch in the jungle. Being up at the mobility item of the good speed there, but he hasn't really been able to make his presence felt around the map just yet.
Yep, and we see about, you know, it's a 400 gold lead, not quite anything too crazy at the moment, but all this CS that's been accrued simply through better laning coming out of SOFM as well as Shin in the top lane. It's gonna be a big problem. We talked about how Phat Ultimate likes to fight around objectives, and individually, there's not a single member that say has, you know, really highlight reel worthy mechanics or playmaking abilities. They really win through fighting, you know, as a whole. And if they try and contest objectives, you know, simply, you know, so-called black and white being behind on items, they might not have that strength available to them.
As you said, Flavors. But now here we see APU, especially in the top lane. The deficit is only growing bigger and bigger between the Maokai and the Hackrim. I mean, you would expect the Hackrim is very traditional lane bully, but the teleports early on is just setting him so far behind right now.
Alright, just a little bit of a look at the lanes, which are just CSing back and forth. Not too much action happening. Of course, the story in the top lane, as you just relayed to our viewers, is mirrored in that of the mid lane. SOFM hasn't gotten any kills yet, but certainly living up to the hype, if you want, of being very, very dominant in his lane. As we see Tarzan,
Farm Alarm.
Farm Alarm just going back into the jungle as quickly as possible, looking to pass the blue over to Imba.
Running slow game over here. Blue will be going over to Imba. Let's see if the Lissandra will be able to make anything happen out of that. Because now with the additional mana and cooldown, she will be able to push out the leaf, shove it up quite hard, and maybe create a strong roam into the bottom side of the map.
You have to think that Hanoi for Lewis are very, very happy with this start that they're getting. After all, Corki will power up around 14 minutes or so. He should have his Trinity Force completed. And that will be, you know, a strong mid game that is basically kind of the preemptive or the precursor to a very strong late game, given how Maokai is just having a fantastic early game so far. Cassiopeia is having a fantastic game so far. I mean, 95 CS at 10 minutes in. I mean, SOFM is doing fantastic just in terms of getting that gold income going. And these champions, Maokai and Cassiopeia, give them an early, a good early game, and their mid game is going to be scary, and their late game is just going to be plain deadly.
I mean, the more I look at it, this horse in the top lane is just... It's a pretty lame horse. I mean, when you pick Hackrim, you're looking for the pedigree horses.
Lame horse.
The race horses, the one that you want to bet money on, put on the racetrack and stuff like that. Naz looks like an old horse, but a tired woman. I wonder if HFL will be able to put him out of his misery this year.
Most likely that will be the case, as if he even tried to teleport now, he doesn't even have a phage completed. So Imba actually goes in here, locks down King of War. That is the jungler after all. A very, very late TP coming in from Shin. Cancelled, in fact. SOFM gets Tarzan locked down. Flash, exhaust knockup onto SOFM. B1 gets that kill for himself. There's the burst coming in. It looks like with the jungler off the table for Hanoi for Lewis, Phat Ultimate will be able to pick up the dragons for themselves. So there you have it, folks. Phat Ultimate just having that eye for the objectives, and Hanoi for Lewis honestly getting a little bit cocky right there, right? Not calling the teleport earlier, and King of War just saying, you wouldn't dare use your ultimate on me. You know, I'm not that important. My goodness, around the dragon, certainly the jungler is very, very important, and King of War was way out of position.
I mean, I have to wonder. I just look at it, and that's just the same problems that they were facing in week 1 as well. They had these really strong laning phases, kind of going with the solo queuish mentality of win lane win game. Because the moment it comes to contesting the objectives, when it comes to rotating around the map, that's why HFL, they kind of get this D in their grade book.
Only a B?
D.
Oh, D. Well, I was thinking B is very, very gracious, right?
Because D for Draven.
D for Dragon, and D for
D for Draven, it's always Draven.
D, you gotta, dang it, you gotta try harder. Because King of War, definitely, his positioning there was abysmal. And overall, the communication just looked quite bad, right? I mean, we saw Shin start his teleport, stop it. And I think maybe King of War was wondering, you know, oh, I can afford to go this far forward because the teleport will be coming in. Even if they collapse on me, we can turn it around. Something along those lines. Don't want to read too much into it. But definitely, it does seem that in terms of setting up, positioning themselves, calling in the right amount of resources around the dragon area, Hanoi for Lewis just looks very, very out of sync.
just really questionable coming from them. They grouped up around the dragon, but there was no real reason for them to try to go for a dragon in this scenario because they have the Cassiopeia, they have the Maokai. Corki doesn't even have Trinity Force just yet. SOFM forced the flash out of that one.
Good flash from SOFM to bring him to safety, acknowledging the speed at which Rek'Sai can just use his tunnels to move back and forth. Looks like Hanoi for Lewis wants to channel a bit more strength in the top side. Starfall flashing away as well, and here is their prize on the side of Phat Ultimate, rewarding themselves for a timely invade with the enemy's blue buff.
I like this play coming from Phat Ultimate, just grouping out aggressively, knowing that they have the initiative. Now that some major flashes, especially SOFM's flash, is down. So they can afford to go for some riskier plays, just moving aggressively in their opponent's jungle. Getting some wards down and putting additional pressure onto Starfall.
SOFM as well as Starfall lacking their flash might make them the targets of dives, or I'm sure certainly SOFM will be the target of a dive in the next team fight. We have the Frozen Tomb lockdown, we've got the Hecarim ulti, we have the Rek'Sai knockup that are all available for Phat Ultimate. They are very, very good at bouncing the aggro and the focus in team fights back and forth as Imba face plants into the wall right there, but nevertheless, Phat Ultimate do zone away their opposition and take the tier 1 for themselves.
They're grouping very aggressively, they're picking up these objectives for themselves. I like this adaptation to the game because if they were to extend their laning phase, oh, there we go!
Ooh, SOFM actually lands a nice ultimate, but that's pretty much countered out by the time he was frozen by Imba's ultimate. The Rek'Sai farm alarm is now actually the alarm of death as he comes in there, swooping in very, very easily done alongside Imba's flash, or not even flash, just his ultimate for the lockdown. D1 getting chunked rather low right here. Shin being very, very aggressive right there. They do manage to take down B1 on the back of the tankiness of Shin. Rather close right there. I wonder if Tarzan will choose to pursue. And once again, King of War very, very out of position, but Imba, so is he. Gets very, very low, slides back over towards his team. Tarzan on a killing spree right now, doing a fantastic job, actually picking up more members. A flash knockup, my goodness. Tarzan picks up the double, and he's still going for it. Wants to get that Fury bar back up to get the true damage on his bite. But it looks like we've just evolved into a messy scuffle right here as Phat Ultimate's Tarzan picks up the extended triple kill. Wow.
I mean, Hanoi Fluidus, they're just falling apart with their poor rotations, poor decision making, and just overextending in the wrong places. They just need to go 1-3-1. Learn from SK Gaming, push out the lanes. It's okay if you're gonna kill or two over there. It's fine if your opponents group up and take objectives aggressively, because all you need to know is that you need to get SOF from a hit. You get the solo laners here, you get Corki a hit, you get SOF from a hit. Let them grow the CS lead over their opponents. And then, when you hit your power spikes, then you group and fight with your opponents. But in that case, they just felt too anxious. Still, no Trinity Force on their Corki. SOFM wasn't even in that fight. And they just repeatedly continued to go for those engages. Starfall not even landing key CC in that fight.
And I really do think Tarzan's been doing a good job, you know, kind of capitalizing on the mistakes of Hanoi for Lewis, or rather some of their tendencies. We said that Phat Ultimate, you know, they like to play around objectives, and Hanoi for Lewis, you know, have some tricks or tendencies up their sleeves to deal with that, which is win lane, win game, as you called it, Jay Stormer. We saw, you know, not a lot of impact from Tarzan early on, you know, in about 10 minutes, but actually, if you realize from about the 12th minute onwards, he's been, you know, around this mid lane, going for SFM just like this, and look at that, the lockdown, so strong on the side of Phat Ultimate. They do manage, or rather Hanoi for Lewis does manage to trade one back, but it's a 2-for-1. And again, it's Tarzan saying, if SOFM is your top 40 Korean challenger guy, let's focus him and make sure he has a terrible day.
Oh, hook from Starfall, sneaky one coming in, doesn't land onto anyone, but just look at the amount of CS SFM has been able to accrue from himself. At this point of time, I'm not even looking at the amount of deaths. The fact that he has been able to maintain almost 10 CS a minute is going to mean that he's going to be hitting this Cassiopeia power spikes really, really quickly. But here's the thing, as much as Cassiopeia skills with Go, there's one very important factor, which only is dependent on time, and that's the 500 poison stacks. APU goes to Dragon number 2. You definitely want to be picking up as many of these dragons as possible to put the time on the HFL.
Alright, Starfall very, very far ahead right here. Look at the amount of damage coming his way. Collateral damage as well as buckshot. Aggressive positioning from B1, but Tarzan says the front line from him. Shin very, very techy. There's the home guard hacker just zooming off the screen right now. Shin doing a fair job front lining. Pops his ultimate rather early, you have to think, but he has to back up from the fight. B1, no mana left, but all he needs to do is right click to find victory. There is the second level up for SFL's passive. He's got a good amount of mana left. He can still kite around this fight. Looks like he won't be able to find any members to hit with his poison just yet, as Tier being a little bit cheeky right there with his positioning. Not going to be taken out though, and once again, Unfun Ultimate just seemed to have this knack of being able to fight around objectives better. I wouldn't say it was the cleanest, because it definitely wasn't. Hanoi for Lewis definitely had a part to play in mispositioning and, you know, bringing their members into the team fight rather sloppily. But look at the way Unfun Ultimate fights around team fights. It just looks like they have more confidence, saying, you know, this is our A game. Sure, you can beat us up, you can kick us around in lanes, but you know, let's bring the fight over to the Dragon Pit and see how you fare there.
I mean, let's just put some perspective to it. I mean, I like talking about power spikes, I like talking about items, and it's okay if you give up one dragon. Second dragon doesn't really matter that much. I honestly felt Fu Lewis had no business in that dragon pit at all. Just give up the dragon, acknowledge, okay, that's the timer. We're gonna get our items, get that Seraph's Embrace on the Cassiopeia, complete the Trinity Force as well as the Sorcerer's Boot on the Coffee, and then fight again. Now Fu Lewis once again getting caught out.
Yep, that's just the tale of the story. Oh, a nice ultimate from SFM. Nobody gets locked down, but the slow still applies, giving the rest of the team enough time to collapse. Imba does activate his Zhonya's. I wonder if you're able to get out of this. A nice W to lock down the members of Hanoi Fu Lewis, delaying the inevitable chase. Flash play coming in from Starfall. B1, oh, flashes away, but the death sentence, predicting the escape route, locks him down, and Hanoi Fu Lewis turned around a bad situation at the start to a good one. Wow, are they really going to go for the Baron that spawns in 10 seconds? That would be some aggressive shot calling, but they do of course have good consistent damage coming up from Cassiopeia, and Corki has, well, he's got that Trinity Force, but 20 minutes in, honestly, that doesn't matter too much. This would be very, very risky. Death timers are very short. No teleport up. Rek'Sai still has his ultimate though. No tunnels in the area looks like, but I wonder how quickly they will take this down. It looks like now with Shin coming back, they should have a good chance of this, but oh, Ness is up, and Ness has his ultimate as well. Hanoi Fu Lewis must get out of the pit area. They do not want to be corralled into that small area. In fact, one member already taken down. Starfall has already been dropped. Looks like Tarzan's being very, very aggressive with his positioning here, very late with that Monsoon to save his power if that's what he was going for. And Anfat Ultimate themselves just maybe a bit too much bloodlust in their eyes. Not too sure what that was about.
Here's what I would do and say. Most of you might look at it and say, okay, it's okay, fine, it's fine. Fu Lewis, they were still able to win the fight in the end just to come out of that one. But I would feel that instead of starting on the Baron, just hide around, since they've denied all the vision already, pretended they're starting the Baron, use the trash hook, find someone of that, pick that person off, and then just snowball that into a few more kills for themselves. We can't always be just results oriented, because what's happening here is that I feel that Fu Lewis, they're making the wrong calls, but the fact that they're so mechanically proficient, they're able to turn things around and you somehow able to win these fights.
I think you're correctly identifying kind of the intricacy of some of the Anfat Ultimate play as a team, which is Hanoi Fu Lewis, honestly, in terms of mechanics, are looking sharper, right? Anfat Ultimate can catch out one member on the side of their team, but the other four, you know, Flash, Flay, the death sentence to predict where the Flash is going to come up, things like that swing the team fight, even if it's only even if it's a 5v4 situation. And Anfat Ultimate, you know, they kind of played into that gambit or that playstyle of Hanoi Fu Lewis when Tarzan and Tier just went on this, you know, kamikaze mission on their own, 2-on-2 without any kind of, you know, ace plans of their own or ace mechanics against not just two other members, you know, 4 members. I wonder what they were trying to do right there. So Anfat Ultimate, you know, they need to settle down a little bit and just have a bit more confidence to say, all right, we don't need to risk anything in terms of, you know, skirmishing where we might lose out to inferior mechanics. Play around their strengths, and Hanoi Fu Lewis, you know, to give them credit where it's due, go for the skirmishers, right? Like you said, maybe going towards that Baron pit instead of finding a pick or two, you know, really would have been the better choice.
So Fu Lewis, just look at what they're playing. I mean, SOFM as well as Starfall, just blatantly warding and dewarding despite Tarzan showing his presence. This is something that we only see Fu Lewis do. This blatant disregard for their own lack of vision as well as their opponent's perhaps possible map presence. As in, they didn't have vision onto anyone else on the team, but they still hung around. It's like, okay, it's fine if you catch me. I know I'm gonna be able to outplay you, but now Shin, once again, they're gonna get caught out over here.
Shin is of course the tankiest member, but the zoning Glacial Path coming out from Imba does mean that many of the members must back away. They spend so much onto Shin though, he still hasn't dropped. There we go. SOFM has expended his ultimate as well. B1 unloading all of his damage means that SOFM is dropped so incredibly low. Ness uses his ultimate in as well. If they take the jungler out, you have to think that this will be the Baron over to Phat ultimate. And my goodness, Hanoi Full Lewis, they cannot afford to get caught out like that. Sure, they can find skirmishes, but that's different from being caught out one by one. And Violet doing a good job laying down some damage onto Imba.
Are they gonna die to the Baron?
Yeah,
Baron's so much damage.
Very low from the Baron. They have managed to take down Violet, who is just a pain in the side. He'll pop by V1 to keep Tier alive. They have to dance around the aggro very well, but it looks like eventually they will get it. My goodness, on Phat ultimate, the way they play around objectives is absolutely mad, but somehow they find it within themselves to pull it together and say, we're not going to let Hanoi Full Lewis get away with that kind of mistake.
I have no words for the way Full Lewis is playing right now. It's just very characteristically Full Lewis. They just going for these fights.
Yeah.
Without the whole team being around. I mean, Violet wasn't even in that fight at all, and he still continued to donate himself to the Baron pit in a very desperate attempt to stop it. So now Phat ultimate, they're gonna start up Dragon number 3 for themselves. No contest at all from Full Lewis, and this is when they should be contesting Dragon as a team. Rob Aegis, Frozen Heart completed on the Maokai already. Ceres Embrace, Abyssal Scepter on the Cassiopeia. This is the power spikes that they are looking for. And this is when they aren't doing anything in fact. In fact, they're just going to surrender things up, and there's this huge wave now pushing in the bottom lane for Phat ultimate.
Alright, B1 stepping into the poison right there shows just how confident. Well, SOFM flashes and then uses the ultimate way off. But look at this, Imba getting dropped very low. A nice ultimate from Ness to zone out the Corki right there. B1 still hiding very well in the back, but SOFM has found his way onto B1. Actually gets pushed back by Tier. Not too sure what that was about. It actually helped the other members of Hanoi Full Lewis fall back behind their turrets. And what exactly was that? First we saw SOFM, you know, with the most ridiculous Cassiopeia ult. And then the most ridiculous Monsoon coming up from Tier as well. This game has... Now that was a comedy of errors, J-Storm. Definitely, on both sides. Oh my goodness.
At this point, to me, Full Lewis is a team that just defies logic. They completely defy logic. The way that they make the shot calling doesn't make sense. The way that they take their team fights doesn't make sense. And the fact that they're winning this team fights, it doesn't make sense either.
It does not. Who flashes and then uses Cassiopeia ult 90 degrees, you know, away from the opposing team and comes up with the win? No, but oh man, let's not overanalyze that. Honestly, that was just really bad play from both teams. And Hanoi Full Lewis, I guess they're just more used to this kind of chaos. Like, okay, sure, well, we'll go with it.
I mean, from a historical perspective, Hanoi Full Lewis, in the previous season of GPL, when the Taiwanese teams were still around, everyone was hyping the Logitech Snipers, previously HQ Fighter, as this very strong team fighting team that will always play very aggressive. And then they met Full Lewis. And it was like, nope, sorry guys, when it comes to going full yellow in the jungle, that's us, man.
You don't know what full aggression means. Hanoi Full Lewis.
Flash Cassiopeia in the wrong angle, still goes for the team fight. Doesn't matter, we got this, guys.
Well, if anything, SOFM and Co will having a good laugh over that one if they pull out the victory. Otherwise, SOFM's reputation might be a little bit at stake, because honestly, who does that? Who does that?
They won the team fight, and sometimes in this world you gotta be results oriented. As much as I say that we shouldn't be looking at just at the results, because
it was an incredible mind game then by SOFM saying, alright, gonna bait you guys in since my ultimate is down, we've got the tier 2 at our back. Well done, SOFM. Well done indeed.
I mean, nonetheless, I think Full Lewis, if they're able to correct their shot calling, have a more coherent game plan at points of time, and simply move together as a team. It's gonna pay off extremely well for them. Rather than taking 4v5 fights around the Baron with all your AD carry.
Yeah, I must say that, you know, now that the action has died down a little bit, it's a good time to talk a little bit about some of the history of some of these players, or at least the recent experience, and some of the more notable ones. And I want to bring up Tier because he's played with Janna quite a few times. I believe in the last 3 games it has been Janna for him. And honestly, his Monsoon time is kind of strange, right? We saw the one at the Tier 2 right there. We saw the one in the jungle where Tarzan and him just went too deep, and it should just have been a full-on disengage, excuse me. And then in the game against BKT, I believe last week, or was it 2-6? I think 269, excuse me. He used his Monsoon once again to push members of the opposing team towards his AD carry. So, you know, Phat Ultimate is not without their chinks in the armor. They definitely have a few things that they need to work on, and Tier's play on Janna is definitely something to be called into question.
I mean, I wouldn't agree with you on that one when it comes to mechanical execution. Phat Ultimate, they aren't really the best team.
Yeah.
But their decision making and the ability to identify opportunities in space around the map. There's this very cerebral element to it, of this team, and it's currently this is a battle of Brains versus Braun. Brains is in the lead, but
So far.
Braun so far has managed to surprise us.
Yeah, definitely.
If you can't win the team fights, you can't win the game.
Very, very true. You know, I mean, Hanoi for Lewis, for what it's worth, finding their victories into these team fights, but it looks like we've just fallen into a bit of a stalling pattern, folks. Gotta warn you, this might last for quite a while because Hanoi for Lewis knows that they have certain strengths in the late game. Namely that Cassiopeia, it will tick away. Even if you're AFK, it will still tick away. So they really are just waiting for that power spike. Whereas on the side of Phat Ultimate, they love the objective game, so they might not make a move until, you know, 40 seconds later when that Baron spawns and Dragon spawns, and then the Baron after that. So
For Cassiopeia, is one of the most delayed power spikes in the game. They're looking at 35 minutes only. Then Cassiopeia with the 500 stacks of the poison. Currently we are at 42?
Failed to catch it. I think it's 442? 342, I believe.
342.
342 sounds
should
reasonable.
be about there.
Yeah, 442 at 30 minutes in would be actually really extremely ridiculous. But yes, nevertheless, it is basically just a stalling pattern from these two teams. Dragon has come up, but Phat Ultimate not in the position to actually contest this. Well, I mean, they will be in the position to contest it, but not to be the ones to start it off. And Hanoi for Lewis are shredding it down, already past half HP. Doesn't look like Tarzan wants to even make a swing at it. So, a very easy Dragon picked up by Hanoi for Lewis.
For the Ultimate now positioning themselves around the Baron pit. For Lewis, they're a magnet to a fight, but here comes the engage.
Oh my goodness, SOFM drops so low, you have to think he'll be going down in just a moment, but he's kiting rather well. Nope, just kidding, gets dropped anyways. And Imba with his flash engage with the Frozen Tomb is doing a fantastic job to start it out. Ness not managing to find Violet. They do catch out Shin a little bit, but Shin is very, very tanky. B1 gets played back into the towers as well as the Heartseeker strikes of Pantheon. There's a Monsoon that you can't afford to really mess up as there's nobody from the enemy team to displace. So Phat Ultimate, expensive 1 kill that they find, but they do have a 5v4 situation on their hands, and they are doing Baron without having Step Vision away. So, definitely Hanoi for Lewis knows what's up. Rek'Sai will be coming back into the fight right at this tunnel after healing right back up. Still an extended period of 5v4. I don't think... Ooh, Ness actually gets exploded right there, and Shin just being a boss. But Smite secured by Tarzan. Looks like that's no trouble for him whatsoever. Violet doing a good job laying down a lot of damage from the back. Here gets locked down, but B1 is still free to attack as well. Has found his way onto Violet. That's very, very important. The Valkyrie away from Violet. But I do believe B1 will still chase. Uses the heal for that little burst of speed. And overall, 3 members of Phat Ultimate still have that Baron buff ticking on them.
Phat Ultimate, they take a very key fight. They find SOFM. Does get the ultimate this time. Imba is in a whole bunch of trouble, but now SOFM with the ultimate to himself will be running away. Collateral damage picks him off.
You have to wonder whether or not SOFM should have gone for that Zhonya's pickup instead. I mean, yes, he has so much damage. Was even able to pick Imba up after the Zhonya's had worn off. That's just testament to how much damage he has over time. But that's only one member that he's finding, right? He has to pop that ultimate right away because it's the same thing from Imba. If Imba gets onto him with his ultimate, SOFM, you know, he's pretty much done for. He's locked down and then gets chain CC to death, and he needs that Zhonya's. He really, really needs that Zhonya.
Well, SOFM fans, I'm sorry I have to say this, but being in the jungle on the mid lane,
It's not looking too good, man.
it's not looking too good. 2-7 on the Cassiopeia. He did impress us in the early game, but once again, it's the same thing. It's just going full solo Q mode, where he just does so well in the laning phase, and then he looks so clueless after that.
Definitely a little bit of a heartbreak for the SOFM fans. Well, they must have had, like you said, a good time in the laning phase, but SOFM in the team fights, gotta say it's a tough life for him though, right? We've got a lot of members diving towards it. Imba has pretty much singled him out as the target for the Frozen Tomb. Nobody else gets that kind of special treatment on the side of Hanoi for Lewis, unless you're Shin and you're caught, you know, a million miles away from your team. But overall, the focus has been largely SOFM, 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 and it has been working for Phat Ultimate.
But soon we are gonna be reaching that 500 stacks of poison, and that's
Oh,
when
yeah.
we're gonna be getting the ridiculous spell ramp coming in, where Cassiopeia functions like a secondary
80
assassin
carry?
mage AD carry.
Secondary assassin mage 80 carry tank support. Right?
Yes,
DPS.
better than Lee Sin.
Better than Lee Sin. Alright, so Phat Ultimate have cracked the middle tower, middle inhibitor tower, excuse me, but haven't quite found their way to the inhibitor itself. Looks like they'll just be rotating up towards the tier 2 in top. And there isn't the greatest amount of wave clear coming out from Hanoi Fulu as well. They do have saplings as well as the poison that they can set up preemptively to deal with the minion wave, so it's not all too bad on their end. And that will mean that Phat Ultimate will have to be quite careful, or at least a little bit slow in approaching some of these objectives. We do see Tarzan in the bottom picking up that turret, excuse me, at just the slight cost of a bit of his HP bar. Not too much of a concern whatsoever. And that means all the outer turrets. Oh no, actually no, the one in top still stands, but that's the only one left for Phat Ultimate to take down.
Once again, Hanoi Fulu, they find themselves, they know that they're behind in items, behind by about 9,000 gold. Right now, they're just gonna be slowing things down, looking to turtle things up, waiting for another 30 seconds, and I do believe this one Cassiopeia really fully skilled up with all those poison stacks available for herself. Actually, I do have to wonder, having died 7 times, has that delayed them by another minute?
Maybe so, maybe so. I mean, definitely Phat Ultimate are well aware of the stacking mechanism of Cassiopeia. Their focus on her so far has paid off with those 7 kills, about a third, a little more than a third of the enemy's team's total deaths. But Phat Ultimate being very, very cautious with their push towards the inner base objectives. 30 seconds on the dragon, you might, most likely the thought going through Phat Ultimate's head right now is, they took one of our dragons, let's make sure they get no more, and they'll most likely revisit that.
Dragon at 20 seconds. Looks like Fulu is still moving around the map rather cluelessly. They aren't even preparing themselves for this dragon objective, and I can... Okay, here we go. They're moving in for this.
Alright, Phat Ultimate the first to the scene. There's the tremor sense of Tarzan actually revealing Hanoi for Lewis, and well, actually it's Hanoi for Lewis, even though Phat Ultimate were the ones around the scene to take the Scuttle Crab.
Started shit? Why?
Uh-oh.
Got a little bit exposed right now. The home gas teleport comes in but doesn't find the engage just yet.
Blue ping's coming for the middle inhibitor. Phat Ultimate know that that's exposed. Red team does manage to slay the dragon, so that will be going over to them, but now they've got to find their way back to the middle inhibitor. And it's already gone down though, so Phat Ultimate being discerning about their focus when it comes to objectives and go for the one that breaks into the base.
I like that. I like that a lot. Move around. and fight the objectives in space. Since Fu Lewis is so good at fighting, just out-rotate them, and here we go, is the engage.
Pantheon dropping it from the back, lands nicely into the middle of 3. B1 actually very far ahead. Wow, that ultimate from Nesto managing to go all the way to the back line, hits 3 members of the Terrify. SOFM doing a good job kiting, but who's locking down B1? It looks like nobody. Should find his way onto it now, but is it too late? SOFM as well as Violet still alive. Tarzan doing a fantastic job with his knockup, but doesn't manage to actually find his way onto either Violet or SOFM. So, at the end of the day, the objective game... Oh, flash knockup coming out from Shin onto B1. He himself flashes away, dodges away from the big one with the quick draw. No more mana onto Violet. And quite the hectic team fight we saw right there from both sides.
So Fu Lewis, despite being down by 10,000 gold, they find the team fight and they win it once again. Brains versus Brawn. Fu Lewis bringing Brawn to the table.
Definitely brute forced right there. We saw the Pantheon man drop right into the back. B1 not too sure what he was doing so far forward. Definitely trying to lay some damage down onto SOFM while Imba had him locked down. But overall, we saw how quickly the Hecarim melted as well. So when it comes to these fights of attrition, the more drawn out fights, Maokai is definitely faring better than Hecarim so far. And that might be a bit of an issue, honestly, if SOFM and Violet, excuse me. Oh, a massive knockout coming out from Tarzan. SOFM's ulti actually quite poor, landing only onto Tarzan. It looks like Imba has locked down SOFM, unable to get out of that situation, and now the chase just continues. Phat Ultimate just charging through the ranks of Hanoi Fu Lewis, as Imba himself does get picked off by a single spear here with the 750 stack tier right there, as his teammate still dies despite the monsoon activation. And could Phat Ultimate be looking to end it right here with Tarzan tanking and the quick draw damage coming off from B1? Yes, it looks like that's what they want to do. Here's the man drop damage. He's going to be knocked up though from Tarzan's knockup. Wow, just zero respect coming up from King of War, but maybe with the death timers this long, maybe you can say it doesn't even matter. Phat Ultimate commanding in these last few team fights, or rather finding their way despite commanding team fights from Hanoi Fu Lewis to crack the base and eventually the nexus of Hanoi Fu Lewis.
I mean, it seems that Hanoi Fu Lewis, they have a very bad relationship with Baron, because every time their purple worm is up, they lose every fight. At the moment Baron is down, Phat Ultimate, they take the Baron. Somehow Fu Lewis are able to win the fights again. So before 20 minutes, Fu Lewis was winning the fights. Baron spawns, they lose the fights, and then APU takes it, and then Fu Lewis wins another few fights to keep himself in the game. But ultimately, all the global goal from the Baron objective just goes for the APU, and they just come out large in this game. Tarzan 13, 5, and 16 on the Rek'Sai, just making the plays happen.
Definitely. I think Tarzan's Rek'Sai, the teams that have been able to take down Phat Ultimate, they ban that away from him. And it's something that teams who don't ban away, if they're, they seem a little bit cocky, because once it comes to the late game, he's not afraid to do that flash triple knockup that we saw. It's not, nobody dies right at the instant, but so much focus has to be put onto the Rek'Sai, and then the follow-up is so strong from the rest of Phat Ultimate. It really shows that they know how to play around the Rek'Sai more so than other teams. So guys, we will be going for a quick break. We'll be back for game 2 in just a little bit to see whether or not Phat Ultimate